Once again, YouTube has come under heavy fire for their obvious inability to consistently enforce their guidelines on their website, but this time it seems to be a bit more serious than usual. You might remember last year when the hashtag AnswerUsPedoTube was trending on Twitter when a YouTuber named mamamax, who's best known for his videos where he poses as a child in various apps and websites to lure in and expose pedophiles before turning his findings into the FBI, was struck down by YouTube for supposedly encouraging bullying towards these predators he was working to expose. This understandably made YouTube look incredibly suspicious and gave many people the idea that they were beginning to do a Twitter and attempting to actively protect these sick individuals. Unfortunately, it seems this is an issue once again, because just under a week ago, it seems YouTube decided to do what they do best and attempt to fuck over Max a second time. Now, you'll have lobotomites like Mr. Sen who openly project this absolutely brain-dead thought process where Max is somehow in the wrong and is supposedly going through all of this trouble not to help the children whose voices need to be heard, whose stories need to be told, but instead solely for the monetary incentives. This is fucking stupid. The reason Max is going through all this trouble is because YouTube is actively silencing a very serious matter and therefore inadvertently protecting the very same people he's trying to expose. He doesn't care about the money. What he cares about is making sure these situations are brought to light and that people may act accordingly and be aware of potential threats to them or their children. I should mention right now, I don't really think the people at YouTube are intentionally protecting these predatory individuals on their website. Rather, YouTube's becoming increasingly over-reliant on artificial intelligence to do their jobs for them and moderate the content being uploaded to their website, which is detrimental to everyone involved and results in a really shitty situation where the people who should win lose and the people who should lose win. What's worse is that a lot of these creators' livelihoods depend on these videos that are being wrongfully targeted. By fucking over these creators, YouTube is actively taking food out of the mouths of hardworking, honest people and instead putting it in the mouths of pedophiles, zoophiles, and other awful people who may be using their statuses on the same website to exploit more vulnerable individuals such as children. Another good point that was brought up by another YouTuber known as Optimus is that just because some creators might not want to make their own videos on the situation doesn't mean they're siding with predators. That's retarded. Again, you have to remember that a lot of these people's livelihoods depend on their channels. And because of how YouTube treats this kind of content, or at this point, any content in general, it should be completely understandable why they would want to avoid getting involved. But of course, the average fucking Twitter user has the brain cell count of an amoeba, and therefore can't be bothered to take even 5 seconds to consider the reality of the situation in any capacity, instead opting to throw anyone under the bus that they disagree with, and it's Twitter, so that part isn't very surprising. He also mentions that we need to be very careful about how we handle this situation because YouTube has a history of massively overreacting when large-scale issues are brought to their attention. That is, when they choose to acknowledge it. And I don't think I need to elaborate any further on that. The final thing I want to bring up is YouTube's guidelines and their inability to properly and consistently enforce them. For example, and I wanted to make a video on this piece of shit alone, but I figured it'd be easier and make more sense to do it in this one. There's a YouTuber named Hypnotist Sappho who came out as a zoophile about 3 months ago and, more recently, a pedophile. Imagine my surprise. She heads another YouTube channel called Zeta, which is essentially an entire channel dedicated to promoting zoophilia and bestiality, and has also appeared on the notorious Zooier Than Thou podcast, which essentially has the same purpose. YouTube's community guidelines explicitly state that content that contains or promotes bestiality is a direct violation of their terms of service, yet for some odd reason her account, along with Zeta and Zooier Than Thou, have remained on the website without any sort of repercussions. What's worse is this sick bitch compared coming out as a zoophile to the Stonewall riots of 1969, which I really don't feel like elaborating on any further. So the main message I'm getting is that you can promote raping animals, actively exploit children, and overall just abuse your status as a creator to do shitty things and get off scot-free, but if you say fuck within the first minute of the video, or you're helping to expose these human skid marks to the world for who they really are, you're getting thrown in YouTube jail without any sort of transparency from their end, no matter who you talk to, for an indefined period of time. Pick a fucking side, YouTube.